You can do so much more with AI than you realize. There's almost no task you can't push to AI. And once you start to have that mindset, you'll really have those breakthroughs. But those are the best places to start.
Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential. Welcome to Inspired by Success. Today, we're speaking with Jonathan Green, an expert in AI-driven success. With over a decade experience as an online entrepreneur, Jonathan helps newcomers use AI for quick business growth. Living on a peaceful remote island, he runs businesses remotely, living the dream. Jonathan's best-selling book called ChatGPT Profits and Mentorship demonstrates how AI is changing entrepreneurship. Let's dive into the brilliant mind of Jonathan Green, discovering how he's turned dreams into reality. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Jonathan. I'm super excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. AI is absolutely my favorite topic right now, so I'm excited to spend some time together.
Beautiful. Tell us about your story and reflecting on your journey. How did it all begin? I know that you were fired during a blizzard, and is that right? Becoming a turning point in building what you built today. So tell us a bit about that and how you've become the man you are today.
Yeah, we're almost taught that entrepreneurship is like a dirty word. When you go to school, it's like, oh, entrepreneurs is for other people. You can't really learn about entrepreneurship. They don't teach about high school. They don't teach about it in college. It's always for other people. It's like, oh, other people start businesses. And it never feels like it's a possibility for you, even if you're someone who has that inclination. And it's a small percentage of people. But I always started these small side businesses, but I never took them seriously. I always just kind of didn't realize that I had the entrepreneurial bug. And the only thing that really pushed me and forced me to go full time was getting fired. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And for a lot of people, we need that push. And a lot of people have experienced that over the past few years. We have this belief that like if we work for a large enough company that we're like fireproof or that we have a job for life. And a lot of people found out that's not true. So we believe that there's this loyalty from our companies and it doesn't actually exist. There is no loyalty from companies. They're not people, they're machines, they don't actually exist. They're not humans. So even though you can feel loyalty and humans can feel it towards each other, a company will never feel loyalty towards you. And you can find out when it's like your boss either has to take a pay cut or fire you. They never take the pay cut, right? And that's how you know what's really happening. Whenever it's same thing for me and my employees. If I have to choose between paying for one of my kids to have surgery and keep one of my employees, I'm going to let the employee go. So we're all that way. We're all naturally selfish. So you have to, at some point, start taking responsibility for yourself. Even if you are an employee forever, you can still be an active employee, which is where you look at, well, how can I earn more money? How can I get that next promotion and be active instead of hoping you get picked? Instead, there are a lot of things you can do to improve your skill set. You can switch between companies and get promotions that way. So you can be very, very strategic. And that's really something that I began learning when I finally got fired. It's like the best thing that ever happened to me.
Getting fired, and now you look where you are today. You're living on a remote island in the South, like far away, South Pacific Islands, which is a dream. So how did you manage to run a successful business, from such a unique location as well?
Yeah, most people, their knowledge of foreign countries is 20 or 30 years out of date. We think, oh, it's expensive long distance phone calls, really long flights. If you send a letter, it takes a month. And none of that is true anymore. I have high-speed internet. We have multiple gigabit internet providers on my island, okay? We have 4 high-speed internet providers in addition to 2 5G cell phone networks. There's actually 2 different choices for 5G cell phones. So I have 7 choices for high-speed internet, depending upon where I am on the island. So the access to the internet, I have faster than a lot of people have in America. So the idea that you have to be in a specific location is very much a thing of the past. It no longer exists. The only accommodation that I make is that I'm half a day ahead of America. So I have to do phone calls and most of my podcast interviews I do in the middle of the night. That's the only accommodation that I make for living on a tropical island in paradise, where the cost of living is about 10% of America, where we live on a beach. Every day is sunny. We have 2 types of weather here, sunny or rainy and sunny. And there's all these amazing advantages that people think it's so hard. And listen, Amazon delivers to my house. Okay. I can order anything I want and they'll deliver it to my front door. I get a tracking number. I get texts as I get closer and closer. I can see exactly where it is. Sure, delivery doesn't take 3 to 5 days. It takes 2 weeks, but that's hardly a sufferable price. When I was a kid, you'd order stuff and they would say it'd be there in 6 to 8 weeks. So 2 weeks is no big deal for me. And in fact, a few years ago, when I was living here, I've been living here for 10 years, it used to take 6 months for stuff to arrive. So now it's gotten faster and faster and quicker and quicker. And now there really is no excuse because everywhere in the world, there's a high-speed satellite connection available or high-speed internet or high-speed cell phone. So the options for places to live and opportunities have really expanded, even though a lot of people kind of aren't paying attention.
What a dream. So, obviously you need income to do that and live that lifestyle. What role has passive income played in crafting the island life that you enjoy with your family? And how can others strive for a similar lifestyle? Because, who wouldn't want to live in a remote location and having the income there coming like passively?
So you have to build little businesses or little assets that generate revenue on autopilot. That's why I have dozens and dozens of books on Amazon. I have all sorts of little products in different places that all generate revenue. I have t-shirts on Amazon because I was one of the first people in their merch program. So I have these other things that are always generating revenue. And then every time I'm building a part of my business, I look at, can this run if I'm not here? So I'm
Mm,
always looking at pure automation. So when someone gives me their email address and joins my mailing list, they start getting sent emails and they get sent to trainings, and all of it's automated. So there were events that I did once live, recorded it live, and then they're experiencing it like live. That allows me to give people a really good experience without having to constantly be there. It allows me to adapt to different time zones. I used to have a lot of problems when I'd run a live event. Some people in Australia, some people in Europe, some people in America. Well, it's the middle of the night for somebody. So you can't please everyone. You can't please your entire audience, but with automation and with technology now, all of those things are an option. So I'm always looking at how can I automate a process and how can I make it so that this thing continues to run. So when you're thinking about building a passive income business, there's kind of two phases. The first phase is active, is where you actually do it, where you replace your income. And then you take those and go, well, which parts of this can I automate? And the more you automate, the more you push things to passive, then the business continues to run. But you want to look at systems as a big part of your process. And that's
mm,
really the critical component. Most people try to jump straight to passive. They skip the middle phase, which is where you actually generate revenue actively, whether it's through coaching or consulting or doing services or helping people grow their businesses. That's where the biggest opportunity, like right now, the biggest opportunity in AI is not doing AI for yourself, it's doing AI for clients
mm.
because most big companies don't understand AI. And most people offering AI services have no idea what they're talking about. Some of the ideas I see people posting on LinkedIn about are terrible. The businesses that implement those are going to go out of business because they're really bad, really expensive, really bulky ideas, and they're very complicated to implement and they won't last for very long. So there's a huge opportunity for people like me who come in and say, listen, I'll tell you exactly what you need. And I'm going to cut your overhead by 10%, 20%, 30%. And you just pay me a cut of what I save you. I don't even care about profits. I'll save you so much money. You can pay me money out of the savings and I'll be happy. So that's where the biggest opportunity is. And that's the active part of your business. Eventually, you start to develop passive revenue streams where you get a percentage of a project or a percentage of the back end or a percentage of difference. If you come in and say, hey, just pay me based on how much more money you make, those are the places where you can start to add in those passive revenue streams. But most people try and skip. There's all these videos that always say push one button or do one magic step, and
Mm,
they remove the work element. And that's not really true. Even if you look at most famous for writing that book, The 4 Hour Work Week, he doesn't work 4 hours a week. He does more than 4 hours of podcasting a week. So
mm.
even people that have kind of made it their brand are doing more than that. I still work.
Yeah.
I work
Yeah.
7 days a week, but I just have an amazing job. So you can build passive revenue streams, but they're never 100% autopilot. You still have to manage it. You still have to check in on it. I know people that only have to work 1 hour a day, but they still have to put in that 1 hour a day to check all the machines to make sure that everything's running and something hasn't gone crazy with an ad spend. So it's
Mm.
being a little bit realistic is a critical component. And then just making a serious effort, go, I do want to change my life, and being willing to go through the desert because there is a hard part at the beginning. Whatever you try, not going to work on the first try. My first ideas didn't work. No one's do. So you just have to be willing to stick with it, try it, and spend a little time investing. And then eventually you'll get to that big winner. But it takes time to get there. And a lot of people quit way too soon or chase too many ideas.
Do you use any? Are you just solopreneur, or do you have any VA staff as well? Because I rely on VAs. And
Sure,
I
I
do.
am down to just two. I had 20 employees for a while, which was a lot of
Wow,
overhead and a lot of work. I've replaced 18 of them with artificial intelligence tools and automations. So
wow,
we're more productive, generating more revenue with less employees.
incredible. So, why is it crucial for every entrepreneur to start incorporating AI tools into their business strategy? Because I'd love to chat about efficiencies and why it's definitely a powerful tool. So, can you explain why it's crucial for everybody, every entrepreneur, to start incorporating it into their strategy?
Sure, the best way is to use a metaphor. So, in the 1970s, when calculators became affordable, a
Mm,
lot of teachers said, listen, this is cheating. If we let kids use calculators at school, they're never going to learn anything. And every new technology goes through several phases, and you can watch it best in education, where first it's considered cheating, then it becomes optional, then it becomes encouraged, and then it becomes mandatory. So when I was in high school in the 90s, I had to have a Texas Instruments TI-82 to take my math classes. It was mandatory. So it had gone all the way over 20 years from anyone who kids will never learn math to you have to show your work on the calculator, and they would look at, the curves and the cosine and the tangent and all these different types of graphs to see if you've done the work right inside of your calculator. That was the test. So it went through that phases, and it's the same thing now. If you remember when jobs were posted in the 1990s, it would say things like Microsoft Skills a plus. They were talking about the ability to use Word and the internet. They're like, oh, if you can use email, if you can use Internet Explorer, that's a plus. Nobody would hire you right now if you said, listen, I don't really know how to use it, but you guys will teach me, right? So these skills have gone from optional to absolutely mandatory. So right now we're in that phase where for some companies it's encouraged and some companies it's like, oh, interesting if you know AI. But what's going to happen within 3 to 5 years is that every job is going to say AI experience mandatory. And eventually they'll stop putting it on the job postings because it'll be an expectation. Like no one puts email skills expected because it's such an expectation, they don't push it. So
Yeah.
you're going to experience that. So for every entrepreneur, how could you possibly compete with someone if you don't use a calculator? So anyone who wants to compete with me, if they're slower, and right now studies have shown that people who use AI are 40% faster. So I can do in 3 days what you can do in 5 days. So every single week you fall back 40%. You'll never catch me. It's mathematically impossible. So for every entrepreneur that's on the fence, it's like, listen, that's fine. You don't have to learn AI. You just have to be ready to be unemployable and out of business within 5 years. As long as you're retiring in the next 3 years, I guess it's okay. But for everyone else, whether you're employed or you're working for yourself, how could you possibly compete when everyone else is faster? And AI tools are only going to get more powerful. Every time there's an update, every time there's a new feature, they add more abilities and they allow people to do more. I used to have 3 people that would work on my podcast every week. Now it takes me 1 to 2 hours after I record an episode to have everything prepped, have the episode edited, uploaded onto multiple platforms, the social media clips made, the social media clips sent to the guest, all of that stuff that used to take full-time employees a week is now done in 1 to 2 hours by myself. There's no point in having an employee because the only thing that I need to do is watch the social media clips and go, I like this clip, I don't like that clip. So that change, that's the game changer. So for a lot of people who are thinking this isn't really for me, it's not optional. You can say the same thing. Nobody would hire an accountant that goes, yeah, I don't do calculators. I do it by hand, right? I do math with a slide rule. So as technology changes, this is not one of the optional ones. This is not 3D televisions. This is not the metaverse. This is a technology that's going to last.
Tell us some tools that you can't live without, and can you elaborate on like for content creators as well? Like can you give us some tips on tools that have really, like what you mentioned, eliminated a lot of the staff and created more efficiencies with editing? But what are the tools that you cannot live without now?
90% of what I do is in ChatGPT. It has so many features, has so many abilities. I've created so many custom bots within ChatGPT. That's where I do most of my operations. It's just so fast. And every time there's an external tool, I go, well, can I do this faster in ChatGPT? So I do use some other tools. The bigger place where tools can make a really big difference is in video editing, because that's just a very arduous process. And image editing, those things are where I use other tools the most. So ChatGPT is my foundation. Whenever I'm writing a blog post or I'm writing something for LinkedIn, that's the first place I go. The second thing is you want some tools to help you with image generation. So you want an AI image upscaler. So a lot of AI images that are generated, and I use Midjourney for that, they're low resolution. So you have to upscale it. So I'm a really big fan of Topaz's Gigapixel AI. That's my favorite image upscaler. It just works really, really well compared to everything else. I've tried a lot of other tools, and it's like, I think it's $90 or $100 once, and it's on your computer. There's no monthly fee. There's no limitations. It works really, really well. I use that a lot. I also use Luminar Neo, which is an AI kind of version of Photoshop, because I just want to take a picture of me, and I just push the enhance button because I don't want to learn
Oh,
how to
wow.
spend like 6 hours editing an image and making it just look better. I could just push sliders and push examples and a bunch of AI buttons. And eventually I say, oh, this is the one I like. So I use those tools a lot for image generation. There's a really great tool called Gling, which is not that expensive. It's $10 or $15 a month. And what Gling does is you can record a video with a bunch of mistakes and it will choose the best takes. So if you're doing multiple takes, like a commercial or something, it will choose the best take. So it lets you edit in a very specific way. It lets you edit in 4K. I use it when I'm shooting shorter videos and like I'm doing like 5 takes of a commercial or something, then I can go through and do it the best. So it's really good, especially if you have a script. You can upload the script with it and it will either guess the script or you can provide it, and then you edit by script so you can make sure that each phrase only gets said once. Very simple tool. It does one thing, it does it very well.
Is
Another
that
type of
Gling?
tool,
Can you
yeah,
spell that?
GLI, yep, GLING.
Okay, awesome. And
So
that's mainly for short form, not long form?
you could do it for longer videos as well. Anywhere where you have content, there's mistakes in it or long
Mhm.
silences, but more and more removing silences is becoming a feature that a lot of tools have. Like just like you, I record my podcast and my video content inside of Riverside because Riverside will do things like automatically flip back and forth between you and me based on who's talking. It will automatically create social clips. It automatically creates a transcript. It lets you edit by text, which is really cool. So I can look at what people say and just remove the phrases I don't want. They're getting better and better at that. So I use that a lot. I also use Descript, which is the other really kind of flagship tool for editing. Anytime I have a video, I upload it, it makes a transcript, and I can just scan through it. So I don't have to watch a whole video. If I'm editing my own content, I do it that way. It's a really great tool for that. Descript also has the thing with an AI in it that makes sure that your eyes are looking at the camera.
Yeah, I've
It
seen that.
doesn't always work great with me. I have played around with it. So sometimes it looks weird.
Yeah.
It'll show like top of my eyes, then bright eyes, and top of my eyes, and bright eyes. So it doesn't work perfectly, but that's a tool that I've been using since it was in beta. I'm a big fan of. And then for clips, there are so many tools that make social media clips that there's no perfect answer. There's a whole range of them. There's GetMunch, there's Opus AI, which a lot of people are using. I happen to use video, and they're all about the same. They
Mm.
all make the same mistakes. They all guess at what a good clip is, and they all kind of come up with weird stuff. So every single one of them, it's really about which one you like. I like video because after I edit a clip, I can then schedule it right then. So it has an automatic scheduler in it. Once the other tools add schedulers, then it'll kind of become equal again.
Oh, wow.
But I just video happened to be the first one I was playing around with. But now Riverside has it as a feature. The script has it as a feature. So I think that the clip only tools are really going to suffer next year because everyone's adding it as a feature, which is a good thing. It makes it easier, the automatic clip generation. It's just that which one has the best kind of results for you is what you look at. So those are the tools that I absolutely use the most. And then there's Perplexity AI, which is my main research tool. Perplexity is a real time AI. So I can search something and it'll give me results from right now, not from 6 months ago or not from 2 years ago. So that ability to find data. So when I was working on information, because I have a program called Fractional AIO, which teaches people how to be a fractional artificial intelligence officer. Some people say fractional CAIO. And there's only about 20 articles on the internet that use either of those terms. Perplexity found all of them for me, found who
Is
was
it
talking
better
about
than
them.
is that better than ChatGPT though? Like, because ChatGPT is updated if you use it for, isn't it? Like it's not
ChatGPT
on.
is about 6 months out of date.
Ah, okay.
So it was 2 years out of date. They updated it
Mm.
recently. Now it's 6 months out of date. Whereas Perplexity has information from today, and you
Okay.
can tell. And when it gives you an answer, it gives everything footnoted. So it's really designed to be research forward. It's very good at the thing ChatGPT is not good at. ChatGPT is not a good choice for research. It's not a good choice for current information because the way it's designed, it will lie to you because the way
Mm.
it's programmed. Perplexity is made by a group of people that left OpenAI 2 or 3 years ago. So it's the same designers. They're just people that branched off and started Anthropic. And what they're doing, Anthropic's gone. What they're doing at Perplexity, they're another branch off, is just really good. So it's really good for current research. And nothing else right now can kind of compete in that area. So it's a specialist tool, but it'll give you the answer. And then you can click on each of the different footnotes. It'll take you right to the article that the information came from, which ChatGPT doesn't really do. It may eventually have that feature, but Perplexity right now is the best research tool.
Do you use because the thing is, when I do my research, I have to copy and paste from the websites, to get my information into ChatGPT. But do you have a tool that actually, can just scan from the website URL? Like, I don't know, any efficiencies there
Straight
that you
into
can do?
ChatGPT. Yeah, that's Harpa. So there's a Chrome plugin called Harpa, HARPA. What you can do is you just click that plugin, and whenever it's open, you can say copy the paste and send it to ChatGPT. It will send a whole page to ChatGPT. So I used to use that a lot, and
Yeah.
then it's just for Perplexity actually finds the web pages for me, so it does all the work for me. But those are the two ways of doing it.
Oh, wow. That's such efficient use and great tips there too. What are your thoughts on, because there's a video platform too that, Hey Jen, I think it is, or something like that. It creates really realistic videos of yourself, and it's incredible the work that they've done. I'd love to get the founder in one day, but that's a game changer for cloning yourself into multiple videos. I don't know how long it does do long form as well, but I've briefly looked into that. But do you have any thoughts on implications of that? Because I've seen, when I watch YouTube, I get videos for the ads that come, and like there's one that's the CEO of Ripple, and it's just so obviously AI because the way he's talking with his mouth. But what are your thoughts on the implications of that in the future? Can you elaborate on?
So yeah, what HeyGen does is basically deep fake yourself.
Mm.
And so it's an AI video of you talking that's not actually you. Voices are getting closer and closer. 11 Labs has pretty much gotten there when it comes to AI voices where it's undetectable. It sounds like a real human.
Yeah.
and you can feed it your own voice. Descript does that as well. It's just okay with Descript. It's not perfect, but I think it'll get better and better. So the ability to create something that sounds like you, it's like there's two ways of looking at it. Like it's a great tool until someone else does it and makes something that everyone thinks is you, but wasn't you, which is already happening to a
Hmm.
couple of celebrities. And then it's going to start happening to regular people, right? Where you go to court and they have a recording of you and you're like, that's not me. That's an
Yeah.
AI recording. And the judge is old. So they have no idea how technology works. And they go, well, it sounds like you, right? And you're stuck. So it's probably
Yeah.
already happened. So with every tool, there's the good and the bad, right?
Mm.
There's the positive and the negative. So sure, it's great that HeyGen can do that, but it's also kind of scary that it can do it to anyone. And it's getting closer and closer. So while what's going to happen as people start to use these tools, and I was actually just writing about this. I was writing a LinkedIn post because I can always tell when people are using an AI post on LinkedIn because it uses
It sounds
words
the
like
same.
pondering.
Yeah.
Everyone uses the word pondering a
Yeah.
lot, or they talk about in the changing digital landscape, people don't use that phrase. So there are
Exactly.
certain obvious giveaways that it's AI. So what's going to happen is that as people use these tools, they all have a fingerprint, right? They all have something in the algorithm that's repetitive or certain ways of doing things that give away that it's an AI. People
Exactly.
are going to start to trust is going to plummet over time in brands because of these things. Sports Illustrated just got caught. Not only do they have fake articles that were written by AI, they had fake writers that they invented that were fake profiles with fake pictures so that you would think that it's a real
Ah.
person. You could even email that person, and that's very dishonest, right?
Mm.
So that's basically they want you to think, oh no, we're still hiring people, but in fact it's the exact opposite. So the only purpose of doing that, the intent of that is to trick, it's to mislead. So they were intentionally misleading their customers. This is a problem that's going to get bigger, and I think what's going to happen is that face-to-face communication is going to go up in value because people are like, the only way I know you're not an AI is to meet you in person. And that's
Yeah.
what's going to happen is actually we're going to shift to like this 1800 style of doing business. Like, I got to see you in person and I got to hold your hand and I got to look you in the eyes, make sure you're not a robot. Because what's happening now a lot is when people say content, you see it all the time. They used to be like, oh, did a VA write this? Now it's like, did ChatGPT write this? So we've shifted that disbelief.
Mm.
But these tools are creating a lot of disbelief in the market. So when people still do this, people will send me a personalized video and it's a mass video. To me, that's a lie. That's you start off by lying to me. And recently someone sent me one and they said and it was a personalized video and I knew the person. He actually was talking to me about something. So I was like, okay. But I assumed because I always get those and it's not. They go, oh, I sent you a personal video and it's always on YouTube or Vimeo and I can see the view count. I'm like, this video is 2 years old and it's got 88 views. I know you've sent this to 87 other people.
Oh
So
wow.
more and more, yeah, you can get trickier with that. Now you can get the AI to say my name and make it look like it. But
Mm.
it's a very dangerous way to do business, right? Because you can get away with it for a while, but once you get caught, I mean, people will hate you. This is a rule I've learned from writing books is that if you confuse people, their response isn't annoyance, it's hate. The best way to make a customer hate you is to confuse them because their choices are to go, oh, I'm too dumb to understand what you said, or you're a jerk, I hate you. They will always choose a
Mm.
second choice. It's basic psychology, it's ego protection. So I don't really like misleading tools. I understand the temptation. Listen, believe me, I would love to have an AI do this interview on my behalf, right? Like, great. I wouldn't have to do it. I could still be in bed. I sure see the convenience of that. But in time, you will get caught. The same thing, a
Yeah.
lot of people right now are publishing AI blog posts, and you can get away for a while. Absolutely. You can get away with it for a while. But eventually, you will get caught because you do not have the same budget for AI trickery as Google does for AI detection. Okay.
Mm.
So if you think you can trick Facebook for how long? Not very long. They have a massive budget that goes towards their AI, which is fighting against your AI. You will never have as good an AI as a company that's putting in $10 billion a day into their AI. So it's a dangerous game. I understand the convenience of that tool and you like mass marketing, but you have to remember the only way that tool works is if you're tricking people into thinking you're making a personalized video for them, right? And it's just gonna, if they figure it out, the price is so much higher than the benefit you get for them not figuring it out. So it may get to the point where that's kind of acceptable. It's like your AI talks to my AI, and now we have less and less human communication. But I particularly don't think that's the right direction. I don't think AI video is going in the right direction yet. It's not. The other AI video tools are all very obvious. They always show you like a 3-second clip. I'm like, yeah, that's not a video. It's not even the length of a TikTok. So until we can get these longer form videos, I don't know that AI video will be making movies soon, maybe eventually, but we're still pretty far away from any of the tools working well enough for prime time. But some of the tools that are kind of going in the direction of trickery, I'm just not a fan of that. I'm okay with like, okay, someone writes a message to me and I respond like to a comment on YouTube with AI. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I think that's fine. It's not a big deal. You're kind of giving the person a good experience and making sure they get a response in a timely manner. I know some people think that like celebrities run their own Twitter accounts, which is definitely not true.
Mm-mm.
I'm always amazed by that. Like, I meet a lot of people that think that like politicians write their own books. And I'm like, how are you still alive? How are you still able to function when you think something like that? Like, there's no way. Because I'm in that industry. I've ghostwritten for a lot of people. Nobody writes their own books. That's a crazy thing to even think. But people do. So there's a lot of people like, oh, this person posted on Twitter. I'm like, there's no way that person did, right? It's someone who works for them, right? Or a friend who runs their socials for the day that did it. It's very unlikely that a person posts their own stuff on social media. Very rare. So that's the same thing where people like kind of are just making a choice to be ignorant. That's fine. But if I send you a personalized video, that's to me, that crosses the bridge to where a person could very understandably be upset when they figure it out because it feels like a trick. Because it's like you personalize a video for me just to trick me. So I kind of think, okay, responding to comments is okay. Even responding to an email using AI. But again, I would read the email and then have AI write the response and then read the response. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't fully remove myself from the process. But again, you have to find where your lines are and we have to decide as a culture what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So something we're still figuring out, but I try not to fly too close to the sun. I try not to do things that people could suddenly decide retroactively are really offensive. And I definitely am very cautious about tools that people could go, hey, you tricked me.
That's true. And speaking of like being able to write and leverage more like the tools so that you can get things done efficiently, you've written over 300 books. So how do you manage writing so many books while also running a successful online business? Like obviously you created a lot of processes and systems in place, but can you share some tips and advice?
Yeah, it just happened to be really good at writing books. So everyone has skill or talent that they can leverage the most. People pay me a lot of money to ghostwrite a book for them. And that's why I do it. So I only, I wrote a lot of books earlier. I write less books now. I've written one book for myself this year and maybe 4 or 5 client books. I don't do that many because things have changed, but it's about what I'm really fast at. So I wrote ChatGPT Profits, I think 8 days. So it's not like other people where they go, oh, I spend a year and a half writing a book. So I'm very fast at it. When it comes to ghostwriting, I have a very low tolerance for boredom. So when I'm interviewing someone for their book and they're being boring, I go, that's not going in the book. That's not going in the book. So if it's not boring to me, it will definitely be interesting to most readers. That's part of my strategy. So I just have this ability. I guess it's a talent that I'm just easily bored. So anything that's boring, I cut out. And that's an important part of my process. So when you're thinking about what you want to do or what you want to do to build your business, you don't have to write a lot of books. Most people just need one flagship book that kind of establishes their brand. So I have a couple of big hits in my collection, but most people out of all of those books, there's 3 that have done really well that people read. So people read those 3 and that's kind of it. Some people read the whole catalog, sure, but not very many. So you're going to get the same benefit with one flagship book. Like the only book I talk about now is ChatGPT Profits. And I can tell you also that like your favorite book, my 2 favorite books I've written, people hate. I think they're the most valuable. People don't get it. Yeah, my 2
Why is
books I thought were, you just, who knows? Right? You can't predict. It's a democracy. So readers get to vote.
that?
And sometimes people don't get it. So what you're
What are those
trying to
2 books though? What are the can you mention
oh,
those 2
sure. The
books?
books people hate Breakthrough and people hate Give to Get, like by a lot. So
Oh,
breakthrough is really about figuring out what's the block keeping you from succeeding and kind of figuring out because it could be in 6 different areas. It could be lack of belief. It could be someone in your family. It could be a bad past experience. It's based on the Book of 5 Rings from Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest sword fighter of all time. So it's really organized in a very specific way. I spent like 6 months on that book and it's very, very good, right? It really is. If you're trying to succeed online and you're like, I'm hitting a wall and I don't know why, or why am I, it will find the problem and solve it, but it doesn't work. People just don't respond to it. And my other book, that's Breakthrough, my other book, Give to Get, which is the power of generosity. I talk about how I went from selling books to giving away books and my income went up 7x that year. And people feel like giving away stuff or being generous is like losing. And it's a really hard mindset to break through. So those 2 books like are really powerful because if you switch to cooperative ventures, right, instead of thinking like, oh, what can I get from this podcast interview? Like, I don't care about that. I'm just planting seeds. I can tell you the biggest money I've ever made is from people that I did a favor for and forgot about it. And 3 years later, they came back and they sent me a referral that paid me 6 figures for a project. And I don't even remember the person I did the favor for. So
wow.
that's the powerful belief. But those 2 books just like don't resonate with as many people. Whereas fortunately, ChatGPT Profits has done really well. My book, Fire Your Boss, has done really well. And my book, Serve No Master. Those are the books that people really respond to.
I have to get those books. Can we talk about how we all can use ChatGPT to save at least 1 day a week? in our lives?
Sure. The first thing you want to do is look at what do I do every week that's repetitive and a little bit mindless. So, an easy
Mm.
example is like for a podcast, it could be writing show notes or it could be creating the transcript, things like that. For some people,
Yeah.
it's responding to email, whatever it is that you spend a lot of time doing, but it's not too active in
Right.
your brain, right? So, like for me, listening back to, I used to have to listen to a podcast episode, I'd have to edit it, then make the show notes. And I don't like listening back to myself say the same thing 3 times, right? It's like
Mm.
really uncomfortable to listen to yourself over and over again. So I was like, how can I push this down? Right. And I said, well, creating show notes, it takes so much time, creating the transcript, editing it. So all of those I moved to AI. So you want to look at what's a process I do that's repetitive. And then you just go, honestly, you can just go onto YouTube and say, how do I do that process with AI? And you want to
Mm.
watch a couple videos from different people because some of them are going to be heavily selling something and some of them the
Yeah.
advice is not very good. Like I was watching a bunch of videos yesterday. So I was trying to update my training on how to create a course with AI. And I watched a bunch of people's videos and I was like, man, these videos are terrible. I had to take
Yeah.
a small piece from all of them. I was like, I used probably 5% of what they all taught about because all of them were pitching stuff you don't need. They're kind of using old techniques. And I was like, this process is way complicated when my version of it is probably a 15-minute video that has everything you need to go from A to Z all the way to recording the video. So I look at that and that's the same thing. So you do have to watch more than one video to kind of get the process and get a feel for it. But almost
Mm.
anything you do, responding to emails, you can do faster. If you spend a lot of time dealing with lists. So one thing you can do with ChatGPT is you can upload a list that has numbers at the front and say, just give me the list back with no numbers. Saves a huge amount of time because most people manually delete the numbers one by one. I know I do, or you try and figure out how to create a macro to do it inside of Excel. And it's silly. Or if I have a list of all first names and last names, I say, hey, split this into 2 columns, first name and last name. It will just do it in 1 second. So things that are very hard to do, or you have to have a bunch of programming to do in spreadsheets, it will just do very quickly for you. So whatever it is that you do that's repetitive, that's the first thing to get rid of. The second thing is you look at what am I the best at? And you go, how can I do this faster? So I edited my book with ChatGPT. That's a great example of it.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is you look at if you have employees, you go, which of my employees, when I pay them, is it annoying? When I pay them every week or every 2 weeks or every month, am I the most annoyed by paying this employee? That's the third thing I would push to an AI tool. And you can do so much more with AI than you realize. There's almost no task you can't push to AI. And once you start to have that mindset, you'll really have those breakthroughs. But those are the best places to start.
That's incredible. And so, speaking about AI, how can we all make passive income using AI?
Whatever you're doing, the first step is to do it faster with AI. So I always teach the kind of runway method, which is first you want to replace your income. So if you have a full-time job, you want to say, what do I have that's leverageable that will make me the most money? So it could be that you have a garage, right? And you can rent out the garage. It could be that you have a certain skill, right? Anything you do, people pay you more for consulting than for doing the job. So it's a mathematical law. So whatever your company is paying you to be an accountant, to be a lawyer, to be middle management is less than your worth because that's how the company's profitable. If the company paid everyone exactly what they were worth, the company would be at break even. Companies don't operate at break even, so you're being paid less than your worth. It's a mathematical guarantee. There's no scenario where any employee at a company that's working is being paid what they're worth. Just never. This is why every single person, you're in the military, as soon as you become a private military contractor, they double or triple your income. Same thing for any government job, same thing for anything else. So that's the first place. So some people come to me, they go, oh, I don't want to do what I'm already doing. I'm like, yeah, well, you have to go through that step. It's the most profitable, probably. It can be relationships, it can be connections. Maybe you have access to a certain resource. Like I had a friend who could get really great discounts on hotel conference rooms because he had some great relationships with hotel managers. And that was his asset he could leverage. So whatever your thing is, find that and leverage that and keep raising your prices or income so that you have more time. So if you're working for yourself and doing consulting or doing projects, for me, when I first started off, I was selling video marketing and SEO services, and now I do ghostwriting. In 2 hours of work, I can generate 8 hours of income. Well, that means now you can spend 10 hours a week on your consulting job or whatever your side hustle, whatever you want to call it is, and the other 30 hours a week on your passive income business. So by generating revenue that replaces your full-time income, you still have the same level of income, but you have more time. And that's when you start to work on your passive income stream. Trying to jump straight from I have a job to fully passive is very dangerous. It's very high risk. It's a lot more challenging. And I like to do services and consulting type things because you get to you get to play with the house's money. You get to learn on other people's businesses. You get paid to learn and paid to go through courses and paid to go through training and paid to get all of this knowledge that's really valuable. So there's huge opportunities there. So that's really the way to go to passive income. And you have to see AI is not a replacement. It's not a magical panacea. People do make these videos of like how to magically make money with AI. It's not true. It's just a lie. Like I would love to tell you that it's true that you can push one button, but it's not. You're just going to try and you're going to get disappointed. The reality is that it makes you faster. You have to figure out what you want to do first and accelerate the right thing. So there is a process to it. So I could become the fastest blogger in the world, but if it's a topic no one cares about and there's no money in it, then it's not going to make a difference if I'm getting all the traffic. So there's an element of strategy and an element of thinking about what you want that goes to it. But once you figure that out, you can do everything faster. You can make coloring books faster. You can design t-shirts faster. You can create blog posts or books or anything. So anything you want to create is faster. So it's the thing it's the best at is content creation faster. If you're in the e-commerce space, you can write your e-commerce listings 10 or 50 times faster so you can list more products faster to figure out what's going to be the winner. So that's where the opportunity is once you find your winner, then you double down and you can accelerate. And that's the critical component is that AI lets you test ideas faster to get rid of the bad ideas and find the winners. And once you find a winner, you can double down faster. That's really where you're going to find that massive success and just see it as part of your process. So in the same way that I still have to create content, I still have to record videos, I still have to write blog posts, I could just do them faster so I can get more done in less time. That's really what AI allows you to do. And that mindset is what's going to be the winner. There are some people getting some short-term benefits right now from creating a bunch of AI content and posting it, but eventually they get caught, their accounts get deleted, they get banned from the major networks and they're done. Like they never come back. They get banned. You get banned by Google and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. What are you going to do? Right. So a lot of those people are getting some short-term gains. Once they get caught, when a big company comes after you, and listen, I know someone that got caught by Amazon for being a little bit naughty with books, not even products, and they went after him. I'm talking he had to disappear, like fully disappear because they were coming after him. Like you're talking about criminal charges, you're talking about life.
Wow.
So
Well, he was
when you think
making a lot of
about
money illegally on Amazon, writing certain things on books.
when you mess with reviews,
Oh, okay.
that's what a lot of people like to start with. So if you have a bunch of AI written reviews, and I know some people that have done it recently, once they catch you, first of all, they'll definitely delete your account and whatever they owe you, you're not going to get. They might come out if it's enough money, they'll come after past revenue. And it's a form of, it's a federal crime. So you're looking at big jail. You're not going to go to the local jail. You're going to go to big jail. And what they're going to do is charge you per review. So
Wow.
for example, if you have a fake testimonial on a sales page, it's a $75,000 fine from the American FTC per person who sees that.
Wow.
So every time someone sees that fake testimonial, that's a crime. So it can add up to, I know someone who got done, and I think the FTC gave him like a $65 million fine.
Holy moly.
So if the government comes after you, if they're just the one they choose, and they don't choose everyone, but if Amazon chooses you, and that's the thing. So that's why I try to tell people, like, don't take the total shortcut because you can make a lot of money in the short term, but then they might want all their money back. You can get a lot of trouble. And this is in every space. It's very tempting. Like, you can make a lot of money making t-shirts about elections, politicians and stuff, but that's all copyrighted stuff. So if they come after you, they can say, give me everything. And I know people that's happened to it. They've made a bunch of money selling t-shirts and they give all the money to the company they were doing a parody of because the parody was too close to the original. So just be aware that like the shortcuts are not always worth it. What you want to think about is this a building or is this a process or a business that has longevity that I can pass on to my kids? Can my kids run this business? Can I run this business for 50 years? I want to keep selling my books for the next 50 years. So I'm trying to build assets that have a really long tail, a lot of longevity. And that's really the magic. One of the best lessons I ever learned from my first mentors, he goes, listen, I would rather sell one a day than sell 100 in one day and nothing for the next year. Because that's 365 versus 100. It's a lot more money, even though it's slower. So building products and building assets that generate revenue in the long term, that's really where the magic is. So when you're thinking about how to use AI in your business, you definitely want to be careful about doing anything because you go, how would I feel if someone tricked me with AI or so, if I was on the receiving end of this? If it would bother you, then don't do it. So for example, for me, like I don't have a problem with books written by AI at all because I read books that I'm pretty sure are written by AI all the time in science fiction. I go, if I like the book, that's the measure for me. Did I like the book? It's entertainment. I don't care if a VA wrote it. I don't care if it's a pen name. So that doesn't bother me as the consumer. But when you start to write news articles and you pretend it was a real person and don't just say it's a character, like, that's where the game starts to get tricky. I go, I don't like that because that's something different. But you can say, like, I'll tell you if something's by AI or not. If someone asks me, it's no problem for me. Like in my book, everything written by the AI is in italics. It's easy to know. So you have to find your line of ethics and you kind of think about the future and think about what are people going to decide is okay and not okay. And that's really how you can build a business that has a future and has a long term.
Great, incredible tips there. And so everyone can learn about that. Honesty always, I believe in karma as well. So being honest in business will definitely help you succeed long term. Now, let's talk about what excites you mostly about the future.
Sure. I think that AI is a great equalizer. I think it's going to give people from the poorest countries access to the largest markets in a way that's ethical. Sure, people are using it for bad stuff, which I don't like, but it means that anyone from any country can now write books or content in English with no spelling mistakes. So now they can compete in the markets and kind of change their lives to where, a couple $100s a month is life changing for them and their families. So that's what gets me the most excited.
Beautiful. Definitely, this conversation has just been really valuable and very helpful. And I hope the listeners have found it helpful. I definitely want to do another interview with you in the future as well, because AI is always moving forward so rapidly. So there's some really great useful tips here. I want to know, where can people find you and follow you? And because you've just offered so much insightful, useful advice. So yeah, where can people find you?
Sure. If you Google Serve No Master, it's my website, servemaster.com. Every single book, podcast, and search result for the first 100 search results, they're all me. So anywhere you go by searching for Serve No Master, you find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to communicate. That's where I'm the most active. That's my most active social network. Best place to DM me or to follow me because I'm posting content there more than anywhere else. And if you want to see a bunch of my AI content, that's at servemaster.com/AI, where you get a bunch of free tools that I've built to help me and be faster with AI, and they can help you as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best with your business endeavors and your future books as well. It was so nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.